It all started with the wail of sirens tearing down my dusty private road. Not the usual distant hum of an ambulance, but a full-on parade of county deputies charging toward my ranch like I was hiding a meth lab. 1 minute, I was tossing hay bales for my cattle. The next, my hound Rusty was barking up a storm, and a woman in a gaudy floral blazer was hollering like I'd stolen her prized poodle. Her name was Deborah, but everyone called her what she'd earned, the HOA tyrant. She was screaming about violations, waving her phone, and here's the kicker, calling the cops on me, on my land. But when the sheriff stepped out of his cruiser and grinned, "Hey, Pop," her face crumpled like a cheap paper towel. That moment, I knew this was going to be a story worth telling. The trouble had been simmering ever since that shiny new subdivision sprouted across the county road, a cookie-cutter neighborhood that looked like it belonged in a real estate brochure, not rural Texas. Most folks there kept to themselves, but Deborah was different. She strutted around with a clipboard, a fanny pack stuffed with pens, and a phone always recording, like she was the mayor of her little kingdom. Her SUV had vanity plates reading in for Sir, and she acted like her HOA bylaws applied to my 80-acre ranch, which had been in my family since the Great Depression. Our first run-in was small. She taped a typed note to my gate, listing violations. My grass was too long, my cattle were too close to the road, and my barn built in 1962 was an unauthorized structure. I chuckled and tossed it into the fire pit. The second time, she marched onto my property, uninvited, demanding I tear down my old water tower because it ruined her view. I nodded at her SUV's loose hubcap and said, "Fix your eyesore first." She didn't laugh. But that morning, things escalated. I was checking fences by the creek when Rusty growled, and there she was, at my gate, HOA badge dangling like a sheriff's star. She shouted about some fake property code, one I knew didn't exist. I told her to scat before my bulls took notice. That's when she dialed 911, pacing and describing me like I was holding her hostage with a pitchfork. I leaned on the fence, sipping coffee, while she ranted about a dangerous man and threats to the community. Rusty tilted his head, unimpressed. 15 minutes later, tires crunched gravel, and 2 squad cars roared up, lights flashing. Deborah ran toward them, arms flailing, fake tears streaming. The lead cruiser stopped, and out stepped Sheriff Daniel Harperme's son. He scanned the scene, saw me, and called, "Hey, Pop." Deborah froze, mouth gaping like a fish. Dan patted Rusty and asked if I was okay. I said, "Just fine, except for this trespasser claiming she owns my cows." Dan's face hardened just enough to signal trouble for her. He turned and said, "Ma'am, this is private property, outside HOA jurisdiction. Did you file a false report?" Deborah stammered, "You're his father?" Dan raised an eyebrow. "Filing a false report's a crime. Want me to play back your call?" Her face went white. A deputy noticed her SUV parked illegally and started writing a ticket. She shrieked, but Dan calmly took her license and let her off with a warning and a trespass notice. She sped off, tires squealing. I thought that'd be the end, but Deborah wasn't the type to slink away. She was humiliated, and humiliated people get reckless. The next day, I spotted 3 vehicles near my back pasture, not at the main gate, but a service road only locals knew. Through binoculars, I saw Deborah leading 2 lackeysones with a portable printer, the other in khakis so crisp they screamed HOA devotee. They climbed through a broken barbed wire fence, snapping photos of my barn and muttering about visual pollutants. I grabbed my phone, already recording, and walked over with Rusty. Deborah declared they were conducting an inspection under some made-up HOA ordinance. I laughed. "This land's been mine since before your neighborhood existed. You've got no power here." She handed me a fake citation listing nonsense like rooster noise. I held up my phone, red light blinking. "You're trespassing. I've got every step on video." Her crew hesitated, but she hissed about eminent domain. That's when I stopped laughing. I helped write the rural zoning laws that block HOA overreach. You're out of your depth. Defeated, she led her posse back to their cars. But Deborah wasn't done. A week later, I woke to banging metal and spooked cattle. My front gate was smashed open, a fence post uprooted, and tire tracks led to my barn. Several bulls roamed loose, and an orange cone sat in a haystack with a sign, "Unsafe structure, to be demolished," stamped with the HOA logo. This wasn't just trespassing, it was vandalism, endangering my livestock, and anyone nearby. I snapped photos and called Dan. He arrived with deputies, his face grim. They found a broken side mirror matching Deborah's SUV and red paint on the fence. My cameras caught it all. At 4:38 a.m., her SUV rammed the gate, and she planted the fake sign before fleeing. Dan bagged the evidence and said, "She's done." That afternoon, Deborah was arrested in her driveway, caught on a neighbor's camera. The video went viral, captioned, "HOA boss bites the dust." She screamed about agricultural decay as deputies cuffed her. The HOA disavowed her, claiming her visual standards chair role was self-appointed. But Deborah had one last trick. Before her arrest, she'd filed a county complaint alleging my barn was an illegal storage site. The zoning office had to investigate, but I was ready. My barn was a registered storm shelter and fire department supply depot with permits from 3 agencies. When the inspector came, Dan joined us. I showed the setup generators, feed, and fire hoses. The inspector nodded, all in order. I handed him a file of Deborah's fake citations and trespass footage. He shook his head. She tried to weaponize the system. That evening, an HOA member, Martha, visited to apologize. She revealed Deborah's reign of terror, bullying the board, misusing funds, even filing restraining orders against dissenters. Martha gave me a petition signed by 37 residents, demanding Deborah's removal and a fraud investigation. I said I just wanted to protect my land. She smiled. Sometimes that's enough. The fallout was swift. Deborah's arrest video racked up 60,000 views, remixed with cow moos and banjo tunes. The HOA board unraveled as Martha exposed Deborah's scams, fake landscaping contracts, drone spying, ghost projects. The county launched an audit, and I was subpoenaed to testify at a packed civic center hearing. I recounted Deborah's harassment, from notes to vandalism. The crowd clapped, not loudly, but steadily. Martha followed, presenting emails and recordings, including Deborah vowing to make that rancher sell. The council froze the HOA's powers pending review. Deborah faced 3 charges: vandalism, false reports, and forging documents. At her trial, I testified calmly, letting the truth speak. Dan and Martha backed me up. The judge sentenced her to probation, a $10,000 fine, community service, and a permanent restraining order. Her eyes were empty as she left the courtroom, her bubble of self-importance deflated. The HOA rewrote its bylaws, stripping Deborah's overreach, and named me an honorary rural boundary advisor, a twist she'd have hated. My ranch returned to normal. The bulls grazed, Rusty napped, and the new gate stood firm. The neighborhood hosted a barbecue on my land, where I let my cow Daisy wear a sheriff's star. Kids asked Dan about his "Hey, Pop" line. He grinned. Best moment of my career. As the fire pit glowed, Martha asked if I'd expected this outcome. I hadn't, but sometimes defending what's yours sparks something bigger. I hung the HOA's certificate in my barn, a reminder that truth outlasts lies. Now, when cars slow near my gate, I wave, knowing they're just checking if the sheriff's dad is still watching. He is. What do you think about this saga? Have you faced bullies like Deborah or seen justice prevail against unfair systems? Share your thoughts below, especially on how we handle aggression and injustice in our communities. Take a stand, let's hear your voice.